Hello, I'm Dr. Jonda Ash, and I am presenting an effective teaching practices lesson on setting and clearly communicating lesson goals or objectives. Purpose for setting and clearly communicating lesson objectives are twofold. One, many studies have shown that setting and clearly communicating lesson goals positively affect student achievement. However, ineffective approaches to setting and communicating lesson objectives may inhibit the purpose of the lesson. 4 ways to effectively set and clearly communicate lesson goals are: 1. Always begin a lesson by discussing the stated goal or objective. 2. Clearly communicate the lesson's goals. 3. Design lesson goals or objectives that specifically state the learning expectation. And 4. Conclude each lesson by returning back to the stated lesson objective. Always beginning lessons with a statement of lesson objective is important because lesson objectives frame and structure a class period. Students are provided direction for their learning, and discussing goals of lessons with your students should be the teacher's first order of business. Why? Because discussing the lesson objectives help your students understand what the lesson will require of them and what it is that they're going to learn at the end of the lesson. Students will not pay attention to the stated lesson objective if you just write it on the board. You want to make sure that you draw their attention to the lesson. Clearly stating and communicating lesson goals are conversely different from lesson activities. A lesson goal specifically states what students will be able to do after the lesson. For example, students will be able to determine the meaning of words and phrases as they are used in text. That is a lesson goal. A lesson activity would be what the teacher assigns to equip the student with the knowledge and skills needed to meet the objective. For example, students will apply knowledge of 10 vocabulary definitions by writing 10 sentences using new vocabulary words in correct context. Lesson goals and objectives go hand in hand with lesson activities. However, it is very important not to confuse the two. When lesson activities are presented as objectives, they send a message that learning is really about completing activities or assignments and not about gaining the knowledge and skills that are necessary for students to learn. Design lesson goals that specifically state the learning expectation. Designing a lesson goal that is too broad is ineffective in helping students understand your learning expectation. For example, this lesson goal is too broad. Students will be able to write effective persuasive essays. Okay? Well, this objective offers little guidance because it doesn't state how students will be able to write their effective persuasive essay. The following learning goal is more focused and states how the objective will be met. Students will be able to write persuasive essays effectively using the persuasive techniques bandwagon and celebrity endorsement. Conclude your lesson by returning to your lesson goal or objective. Your lesson should end with a return to your objective, and then you want to give your students a chance to reflect on how well they met the objective. They could do this by completing an exit ticket or some other kind of lesson closure activity. In review, there are 4 ways to effectively set and clearly communicate lesson goals. 1. Always begin lessons by discussing the stated lesson objective. 2. Clearly communicate lesson goals. 3. Design lesson goals that specifically state the learning expectation. And 4. Conclude each lesson by returning back to your lesson objective.